Metrics. We're going to take a deeper look at Google Analytics, what it can do for you, and explain some of the key reporting features. So this is the audience overview screen for our own website, Little Data. And this is the first screen you're going to get to in Google Analytics. And the principle is that you are picking a time range to analyze. By default, you can see in the top right here, it picks the last month. So in this case, 17th of April to 17th of May. We can change that at the drop down, and we could select a number of different time ranges. So last 30 days is what we're on at the moment. So what we've got here is a standard chart of sessions. So sessions being equivalent to visits. It's a number of individual people who, or 30-minute visits which land on your site. And you can see for a given day, if you look at this data point here, Monday the 25th of April, we got 81 sessions. And this site, because it's business related, tends to show a typical weekly cycle. There's a few exceptions, but generally you can see Saturdays and Sundays are lower traffic than the normal. And then it picks up again on a Monday and Tuesday. So you should be familiar with some of the key metrics here as defined in the course. So we talked about sessions. Users slightly lower, so if the same person comes back twice in this month, they're only counted once as a user. Page views being each individual page they see. So we can see on average about 2.7 per session. And then average session duration, a much misunderstood metric. It is actually the time between the first page and the last page view. Google Analytics does not know, after you've seen the last page of the site, how long you stayed around. You might have gone to make a cup of tea, closed the browser. It doesn't know what happened after you requested the last page. So if we were to look at people who only viewed one session, the session duration would be 0. So we can see that session duration, we can lay that on top here of the sessions, and we're going to see that varies over time. On some of these weekend days where we've got lower sessions, we've actually got a higher session duration because we've got the few people who are visiting the site are staying longer. And then over here on the right hand side, we've just got a chart of the new visitors versus the returning visitors. So within this month, this one 30-day period we're looking at, the returning visitors make up 23% of the visits. So that's your overview. We can dig into that further. We could have a look at the real time, what's happening on the site right now. So this is real time to within a few seconds. Right now, 0 people active right now, but you can see a few page views 40 minutes ago and 18 minutes ago. So you can just get an idea. This is actually most useful for testing that your Google Analytics is working correctly. If you're just not sure whether it's tracking you, go and visit a page. Providing your visit is not filtered out, it will appear here in the real-time reports. So the other key reports we want to look at are geography, where are your visitors coming from. So language is less useful, but the location report is useful. And we can see, in this case, it's very much a UK-based site, so the vast majority of the sessions are coming from there. But we can see we're also getting various sessions from all across Europe as well, and around the world. And then acquisition being the next point of interest. So the standard report here is channels, all traffic and channels. So Google Analytics automatically picks up certain channels. So organic search, generally coming from Google's own search engine, it recognises that and buckets into that. So in our case, that's 50% of our traffic. Direct is effectively the traffic Google doesn't know what that's about. So direct traffic is all the stuff that is unlabeled. It could be coming from a bookmark, it could be coming from an app, but it doesn't have a referral source to link it to. Referrers is all the other websites which are not organic search. So, for example, Just let it load. For example, in our case, we've got Partner Gallery, Working Startups, a few other sites that are referring us traffic. And then we can also see email marketing, because whenever we do emails, we tag that link, and also social links from the different channels that we use, particularly Twitter and LinkedIn. So that's kind of useful report channels, and as I said, we could, like we did for referral, we can drill into one of these and see the detail. Now, the one that we might want to look at most keenly is AdWords, if we're doing pay-per-click, and there we can actually go and see for a campaign, or let's look at the individual keywords we're advertising against, and we can see for each keyword how many clicks we're getting, how much it cost us, and also critically the bounce rate. So you can see that for us, although Web Analytics Consultancy only bought 3 clicks, the good news is those people actually stayed around. And finally, you can see on the right hand side here the conversions. So we've got a goal set up, click to inquire. In fact, we can see we've got 5 goals set up here. So just looking at this first goal, we can see Google Analytics training. That's 10 of those 10 clicks, we actually got 1 lead. So that's how we might calculate our return on investment. If we know what that lead is worth to us, and we know how much the cost of those clicks were, then we can work out what the average cost per acquisition was. In this case, effectively, it's cost us £36 to acquire that one inquiry. So there are various other things we can see about AdWords, so I won't go into detail, but search queries, etc. Now, unfortunately, the data we can get on organic search is more limited. We can only see this through pulling in data from Google's Webmaster Tools. That's a separate integration you can set up in the admin settings. The main problem is that the queries are not set for a large number of terms, so a lot of people browse without, if they're looking at Google search in a secure web page, it doesn't pass on the keyword, so we're not seeing the full list of things people are searching for. But it does give us a pretty good idea. This doesn't link to any other reports, so we can't segment. You'll notice these aren't clickable. We can't drill down and see exactly what happened to these people after they came in via this query, but at least we can get an idea of how many people and what kind of average search position is. So that's useful. And then we might also be doing some further campaigns. So, for example, let's say we're doing, let's have a look at all campaigns. So if we were doing, let's say, a third-party email that we paid for, we could see it under this campaign. So, for example, we've got one app listing here. We could even import the cost. So we haven't got this set up here, but the really clever thing is we could import, for example, how much that particular email campaign had cost us to run, and then we could look at the cost per acquisition directly in Google Analytics. When I talk about setup, they're all under the admin settings. We haven't got time to drill into that in detail, but we can see that there's lots of settings. So, for example, we can link our AdWords account here, and the other one I was just talking about was cost imports. We can do a data import here and import some cost data. So, providing you've got edit access to the Analytics portfolio, there's lots of add-ons to Google Analytics. So back to the reporting interface. We're going to look at landing pages next. So if we get to behavior and then site content, we have a report type for landing pages. Now, what this enables us to do is see the first experience people had of our website, what happened then. So first of all, we're going to see how many people came in via a certain web page, and you can see in our case we actually have different domains. We've got some on www.littledata and some on blog.littledata, and we set up a rule to add both into the landing page path here. So these are our top 2 landing pages. Well, we can see that in fact they brought exactly the same number of new users, but we can also see that they had a very different engagement. So people come to our homepage, 50% of them bounced, 50% of them stayed more than one page, but for the blog article 88% of them bounced, so quite low engagement with this post. And that also translated into about half the time session duration. Plus, none of the people who read the blog post actually completed a goal, whereas 6 or 1.86% of the ones landing on the homepage did. And if we want to look at a particular goal, let's say a new subscriber, we could see how that was affected by page. Now we see that actually none of those pages led to new subscribers, so, but there were 23 goals in total. So this allows us to analyse how good a landing page is at converting individuals, and although we can do that by bounce rate, doing it by goal conversion is more powerful. By the way, from any of these page reports, I can click a link here to take me through to the page in question, and that's been blocked by my network at the moment. We could actually go and see the page itself, so we can just get an idea of which page we're talking about here. We can then go and have a look at site speed. So this just gives you an idea of overall how quick your pages are to load, and that's really important because fast pages mean people stick around your website for longer. So if you have anything below 3 seconds, and we're just under 2 seconds here, that's good. People are going to find your site is quick, and they're going to look at more pages and engage. Anything more than 3 seconds, or suddenly anything more than 5 seconds, and you've got a problem. And this is a quick report to tell you, without looking at the detail of where the speed problem is, it can just tell you where you've got a problem and which browsers, which countries are having a slow experience of your site. So the next thing we might look at is the conversion goals in more detail. So we looked, e-commerce tracking isn't relevant to the site because we don't sell things online, but we do have goals set up. And if we look at the overview, we can see the conversion rate for particular goals. So I want to look at new subscriber, which is this one here, and we can see that that was running fairly regularly in April, and that's because we were running campaigns at that time. But since we stopped the campaigns at the beginning of May, that hasn't resulted in new sign-ups until Monday, when we got 4. So it's kind of useful. We can see when people are converting goals, and we can also visualize what they did before they did a particular goal. So what did people do before they became a subscriber? And we can see, or in this case, not very useful because the entrance was the first place they did the goal. So that's kind of helpful. That assumes that you've got a goal set up. If you haven't got a goal set up, there's a simple way to do it. So we can go to the admin setting here and look at goals. So under the view here, we're going to look at goals. So we've already got a fair few goals set up, but we can click the big red button here to start up a new goal. Now, there are different types of goals here. The easiest ones, so it has these sort of standard ones that you might want to look at. There's what Google thinks are the most common things you might want to track on your site. I'm not just going to go for a custom goal. And I have a choice of things to track. Now, duration goals are really easy to set up. They simply say, so I could say spent for more than 5 minutes, right? And what this is going to track is people who spent more than 5 minutes on my site. So duration greater than 5 minutes. So I can see, verify this goal, how many people that's going to be. I mean, suddenly, if someone sent 5 minutes on your website, and in our case that's 10% of the visits, we think that's an engaged customer. But the problem with just measuring duration is they might have spent a long time on your site because they're lost, they don't understand your site, or they might just have gone away for a cup of tea. And so we can't know just from duration whether they were really a valuable customer for us. So perhaps more useful is to set up a destination goal. So this says if you get to a certain page, get to contact page, then that's useful. That's valuable. Now I'm just going to say begins with /contact. We don't care, it's case sensitive, and again we're just going to re-verify that to see. No, that's not going to work. So let's just do begins with. It's because we've got to put in the URL here. So we can see only just under 2% of our visitors got to the contact page, but that I'd say is a useful thing to track. And then if we want to get really complex, we can set up a goal funnel. And what this means is that we can say, okay, the end page here, the contact form, is the thing we want to track, but to get there, you have to step through a number of steps. So, for example, you might have to view the About Us page first, or fill in a form. And you can set all these things up as steps and say, look, first of all, view About Us, and that starts with little data about, and then whatever the next step is. So that's goals, and as I say, I think it's really powerful to think through what are the things you could track on the site which are value to you as a business, and that will then help you segment your marketing. Now, the final topic I want to talk about in the masterclass is attribution. So the reality of web engagement is that you are unlikely to convert people on the first visit to your website. So if you, let's say you run a AdWords advert, a pay-per-click advert, and it brings people to the site, they might remember your brand, they might think this is a company you want to come back to. So they they bookmark you. And then this next time they come back, they look at a bit more content, and then finally they sign up for an email newsletter, and they come back, they click on a link in the email, and they come and buy something from your site. So this is the concept of multi-channel, the idea that you don't actually just have one channel that gets you your conversions, your sales, or your engagement. You actually have overlapping channels. And we can visualize this here in the multi-channel funnels overview. So we can see of the different goals that people did, there were, quite a lot of them were direct, but they were assisted by the channel. So email, people who did the goal also tend to come through email, complete overlap there. And some of them were also referred, except that's not in any of the past. So we have people referred, and that might overlap with paid search. No, it doesn't. Okay. So in our case, paid search doesn't overlap with referral. The only things that overlap are email and direct. But in your case, there might be more overlap, and you can go and visualize that here. And finally, under the attribution right down the bottom here, we can compare how it looks if we compare different types of models. So the standard way that Google Analytics tracks conversions is it attributes it to the last interaction. So if the last link that you clicked on to get the website was a paid search, then it will attribute you to the conversion to that channel. this case paid search. But we might want to say actually attribute to the first interaction. So that means that if they come through paid search to the first thing, then forever after they're counted as paid search. So just to illustrate the difference here, it's not a huge difference in our case, but email in our case is very rarely the last interaction. Only in one person was that they click on an email as the last thing they did. But in 4 cases it was the first interaction, it was the first way they came to our site. So that's just a way of getting a bit more subtlety about how we measuring the traffic that we're buying in. How does that contribute to the sales or conversions on our site? So just to go back to the beginning, Google Analytics is a tool where you can view what people are doing on your site. It's a tool where you can capture which marketing campaigns are driving that traffic, and also how those individual customers are converting, maybe in the one session or across a number of sessions, how they're converting into engaged users or even paying customers. A lot of the reports that we've looked at today are standard. They come for every website, but the most useful ones, particularly around acquisition and conversion, need you to set up custom goals or channel groupings, and that is where you get the power from Google Analytics. So I hope you found the session useful, and please do go and explore Google Analytics in more detail. Thanks. Bye.